Good morning. Welcome back to Mike's Diabetes World. Another busy day of, I could hear street noise, so if you're hearing that, that's what it is. Okay, current blood sugar is at 6.8, which is good, fully calibrated. I have 0.6 units left in me. That was from that correction at around 7. But corrections have been few and far between last night. Pretty stable, came down. I settled into a normal evening pattern for me. Current blood sugar is at 97%, which you saw yesterday's because I do 2 in a row. I'm at 0 above, 3% below, so this is all within acceptable ranges. 7.4 is the average sugar in millimoles. So, again, for those of you in the States, times that by 18 to get a measurement that you're used to dealing with. Okay. Today we're going to talk to you about younger diabetics learning from older T1D'S. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. This channel is provided for informational purposes only. Contact your physician for any diagnostic or treatment plan. I was quite lucky. When I got diabetes, this gentleman came and talked to me. At that time, I thought he was so old. He's probably around my age now. But anyway, he came, he said, I've had it for so many years. You're going to do wonderful at it. Probably would have done wonderful at it if this didn't get in the way. My stubbornness but that's a different story. So often, youngsters will learn from older people that could be their grandparents' age. And there's a general bond there a lot of times. We see it in family dynamics, how they're revered. Now, I think, let's put things in perspective here. Learning from an older diabetic to younger diabetic still requires parent's intervention. And I mean that the parent should be in the room or in the house, or so that nothing inappropriate happens. Let's just leave it at that. It would be nice to say that we are all just so honest people and how great we all are. But to be truthful, there are some above us that don't think right, and so we have to learn and we have to grow. But do it in a way not to jeopardize. I met this person in a hospital, and there was a nurse present. My mother had to work, so a nurse was present. Don't miss out on this chance. What can you expect to learn? Well, if done right, the older diabetic can relay positivity on how we got to this area. If this channel was for younger diabetics, I would have not shared a lot of the negativity that I have shared with you throughout my diabetes career. That would not be acceptable. That would not be acceptable for a brand new, totally new diabetic. And that's why I kind of try to do more that you can do with videos, and don't lose out on the opportunity if you're afforded this. Could be another family member who has type 1 diabetes. I listened to this and I thought, I can do this. Before, everything was kind of new. At that time, we couldn't really eat anything we wanted to. We had to eat at certain times, certain amount of food, and that was it. If you were hungry, tough luck. You just had to do that, and that was it. There was nothing even better could hold a candle to it. That's a wrong expression, but anyway. Now, I utilize this to teach all T1D'S, whether you're new or an older diabetic. And we need to ensure that the younger diabetics are brought up to realize that they can achieve control. So society is being more relaxed, I believe, for people with diabetes. It's not so regimented, and a little bit more people are understanding T1D if they have a child or being a teacher or a coach that have had someone with type 1 diabetes. It's a worthwhile thing to learn from older to newer. One of the biggest points that hopefully this interaction will engage is a sense that you're not alone with this. As I said, the feelings I had initially was that no one else I knew had type 1 diabetes. I knew it was out there, but the only kind of feeling I had was a story my friend told me of a friend of the family was over and their son was a diabetic, and they went to the store and he was allowed to get one thing. And that really kind of was pushing the boundaries back then, but I didn't know it. I was still a fat kid who didn't really learn anything. But when I met up with this guy and we discussed where my diabetes was, and I really felt that, it's just another thing you had to deal with. It was taught that he wasn't really teaching, we were chatting. And he really went back on what diabetes was really like before long-acting insulin, where every 3 to 4 hours they'd have to do another injection. And I'm thinking, oh God. So if you have a chance, open up your son or daughter to having an older diabetic. Talk to them. I'm sure your diabetic clinic or whatever could have this chance to meet. It's probably better than parents always saying, oh, well, you have to do that. You have to do this now. I was once, at this time in my life, I was living with my sister. And my father was working in Alberta, and I went to go visit him for the weekend. On the flight back, we had lunch, and they served to me, what did they serve to me? Some sort of meal with lima beans. And oh my God, I can't remember what was so particular about lima beans, whether I should have had them or shouldn't have, but it was like the end of the world. And there wasn't too much else with the meal. And oh well, you shouldn't have had them. Yeah, and I should. If I start picking apart things, that's not what I'm saying by learning from older diabetics. And I don't mean you should bring a diabetic with older diabetic in with a whole bunch of kids. I think it needs to be one-on-one organic discussion. Again, with other person observing. Unless it's someone else you really trust. Keeping your blood sugars normal is the key. And any way you can work this out for your son or daughter for their start in their diabetic journeys is going to help. I kind of always knew in the back of my head what I had to do. And I think about this guy and the advice he gave. He talked about giving the dose same time each day, eating the same thing, or not the same time each day, eating the same type of foods. So he talked a bit about fruits and vegetables, but having a salad one day and cucumbers the next. That sort of thing, that life would not have to be so cut and dry every 5 minutes. That just opened my eyes a bit more. The doctors and nurses are authority. Your parents, again, are authority. One-on-one time, it could be 20 minutes. I think mine was about 35, 40 minutes. But I still think back on how wise this guy was. Now, I think you need to set parameters. No horror stories. For example, I have a story that I walked to Fiji, that I forgot my insulin, and that is a story I wouldn't really tell a younger diabetic. Why should we concentrate on the negatives? Concentrate on how you can live with diabetes. How did they live? Pretty well teach them the respect that diabetes needs. And how you could bypass disrespect is not a thing. You can go, and like I said, you can go out, you can have a big meal. You could take your extra insulin to cover that, but you don't do that every day. But if you have that chance to have your newly diagnosed son or daughter, or even someone who's heading into their teenage years, where you know that you're going to have to start relinquishing control, get them to just talk about it with another T1D. It's nice to say, but in all my years, I think I've had one endocrinologist who was a type 1 diabetic. The rest aren't, and a lot of times they're going to feel you don't really know what you're talking about. I'm the one who has to live this. So, some guidelines. Set parameters. Make sure you don't leave the child alone with this other individual. That you are close by. You don't have to be sitting there listening every 5 minutes. you don't need to, well, here's the book, read the book. That's not the point of this. It's just to open up the young diabetic's eyes to how they can live with the type 1 diabetes and how this person has survived many years with type 1 diabetes. And with that, we're going to call it a day. And I hope this and it allows you to open up to have an older diabetic speak to your newly diagnosed or your young teenage diabetic about how they're living with the disease and how not to fall into the pitfalls. With that, have a super day, and we'll talk again soon. Bye now. My email is mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com. mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com.